Hey guys, how you doing? Gavin Timms with REI Network. We're back with another episode. Just before I introduce my guest, okay, if you haven't already, make sure you go and follow me on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, if you've not got your 5,000 free records yet, go to batchleads.io/Gavin and make sure you get your 5,000 free records. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce, done something a little different. I did a coaching call a few weeks ago, and I did another kind of post. And if you followed me on social media, I was going to pick someone for a free strategy session. And here I have Ronnie. Ronnie, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. I appreciate you, allowing me to record this. Obviously, this is going to kind of me doing a strategy session, kind of like if we've never met or spoken. I'm going to be asking you questions, digging into what's going on, and see what we can put in place and what you need to do for your next steps. Okay.
Okay.
So I appreciate you following me on social media to get here, and yeah, I'm excited. So any questions that we have along the way, feel free to ask, completely open. So let's get right into it, Ronnie. So tell me, or tell us, everyone listening, tell us a little bit about you, what's going on, what do you do, what have you done, and let's start with that.
Sure. Okay. I am a comic hypnotist, is one of the main things that I have been doing until the pandemic hit, traveling the country doing comedy hypnotism shows. And I do them now virtually every now and then. I love doing it. I also love real estate. I am a real estate broker. I have actually done a couple of lease option deals, not nearly enough. And what I really want to do is do a lot of them. When I say a lot, I mean at a minimum for a month. But if I could double that, that would be great.
Okay,
The pandemic has hit me pretty hard, and I not only do I love real estate, but I kind of have to have it work for me.
got it. Okay, so you want to do 4 deals a month, right?
Yes.
And how many deals would you say you're doing right now?
Uh, 0 to 1 a month.
Okay, okay. And what about other transactions? Obviously, you got a brokerage. Are you doing a lot of traditional stuff as well, or not?
Not a lot of traditional stuff. I'm willing to do more of that as well. I enjoy that.
Okay. Okay. So how are you currently finding? So you've done some lease option deals, but it's not consistent, right?
Correct.
Um, how many hours a week are you spending on the business trying to do them?
Uh, a couple of hours. I have more time to spend than I'm willing to do.
Okay. So we're doing about 2 hours a week.
I think that's
Right.
fair. Yeah, 2 to 3 hours.
Okay. 2, 3 hours a week. We're doing, how many would you say deals? Obviously, 1 to 0 a month. Would you say how many lease option deals have you done, or how many deals, wholesale or lease options, have you done, just roughly last year?
Last year I did maybe 3 lease options.
Okay.
Uh, I haven't done a wholesale deal in a couple of years.
Okay. So lease options seems to be kind of where you want to go. Is that kind of what the main strategy you'd like?
That is correct.
And are you wanting to hold, like stay in the middle of these, or assign, or either?
So I think my first few, just to improve my cash situation, I'd like to assign them
Okay.
wholesale lease options, and then I would love to do sandwich lease options.
Okay. So your main income was your comedy. What did you call it?
Comedy hypnotism shows,
Okay, I'm
comic
not.
hypnotist.
Okay, I'm not too familiar with it. I'll have to check that out. That's interesting.
Well, I can tell you
Um,
in a
yeah,
sentence or
tell us.
two.
Yeah, yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
If we were at a convention, you and I, at a small thing that you ran, or I would, if I were doing a show, I would have somebody hypnotized. Takes me about 4 minutes, and I would have them think they're you, and they would take on your accent, your mannerisms, and start teaching whatever they might know. It'd probably be pretty funny. So it's for comedy, and I do therapy as well a little bit. get people to
Wow,
stop smoking.
that's crazy. Okay, that's interesting. I will definitely have to check that out. And if do you have like a channel or like how do people if they're interested in looking at that? I know this is random and completely off subject, but I'm just interested.
Oh,
Did
sure. They
they,
could Google me at just yeah, yeah. Google Ronnie Baras,
yeah,
RONNIEBARAS. I have a couple of skits on YouTube.
got it, got it. Okay, that's awesome. Anyway, back to what we were saying. Sorry.
Sure.
Um, so right now you're doing that. You're spending. You want to be doing 4 deals a month. Right now you're doing 0 to 1. You're only working 2 to 3 hours a week. You did about 3 lease options last year. How many sellers would you say you're talking to a week?
Uh, I would say probably about 10 to 20.
Okay. And are these 10 to 20 sellers that are interested in doing like a rent to own, or are they just reaching out cold?
Reaching out cold.
Okay, so that's either classes then as a text message or is it actually a phone call?
It has been mostly text messages.
Okay, so this is really important and everyone listening just to identify this, right? So why I pick this apart is because obviously talking to sellers and you said 10 to 20. So then I had to go deeper to say, well, are we actually having conversations or are we reaching out to try and create a lead, right? Because they're completely different things. Okay. So I'm actually going to say I'm actually going to change that and say you're reaching out, okay, via text 10 to 20 a week, right?
That's correct.
And you're talking to how many of them 10 to 20?
Of those 10 to 20, I'm only talking to maybe 2 or 3.
Okay. And how many offers are you making on them 2 or 3?
Um, I I make pretty much one offer, and that is to do a rent to own. I don't even get that far beyond what kind of rent to own or whatever. I'm
Okay.
usually shut down.
Okay. And then what about lastly, and I'm guessing maybe you're not doing it, follow up on them offers?
I am not.
Okay. All right. Okay. So this one's pretty.
Say no, it's usually a strong no.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Yeah, I just opened my door to get the connection a little better.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I'm lost. Yeah. You're back now. You're back.
Okay, great.
Okay, so this one then, just so we're going to talk about moving forward here in a minute, but again, I like to see where everyone's at and just talk about this first because it's important to understand and be honest with where you're at to say, well, why am I not being consistent, right? It'd be different if you were saying, well, I'm doing 10 to 20 phone calls a month, I'm making 15 to 20 offers, I'm doing all my follow up and I'm not doing deals, right? Because that's where we need to get to. So just as a quick summary, we're only doing 2-3 hours a week. Okay. You're doing about 10 to 20 text messages out. You're having 2-3 conversations, you're making one offer, and you're doing no follow-up. Okay. And that's kind of what's happening consistent. Now, for this business to work, we've obviously got to do way more volume than that. Right. So you can't say that the market doesn't work on that volume being low. So there's two things that needs to happen, right? You're obviously doing your thing with work, and obviously that's what you enjoy doing, which is completely fine. So there's multiple ways to set this business up that you need to obviously change. Okay. Number one is that we need more hours going into the business, right? By more hours, we're going to get them numbers up. We've got to get the reach out of text messages or marketing, let's just say, needs to be up, which then will give us the ability to have more conversations, which will give us the ability to make more offers, which will give us the ability to follow up on them offers. Make sense?
It makes sense.
All them people we spoke to, regardless of the offer, right? You should be following up with them if they were interested at some point. Now the question is that what we need to talk about, well, yeah, that makes complete sense. And you don't need me to maybe tell you that, because that might, and everyone listening going, well, yeah, that's the obvious. So the next thing we need to talk about is, well, why is it only 2 to 3 hours, right? You need to decide the only way that this is going to work, as we've just said, is to get them hours up to 20 hours, at least 20 hours a week. All right. So that needs to be done by you or somebody else. Okay.
Okay.
So you have options to either redo your schedule and put more time into the business and stay disciplined to it. Okay. And commit to it, or you've got to bring other people in, maybe a partner, maybe an acquisition, however you want to again structure that to get them hours up, right? Because I know that you need to be doing more to get the output in real estate. And we haven't even really gone into your market yet, because with these numbers, it doesn't matter what market you're in. It could be in Manhattan, Massachusetts. It could be in Alabama, Ohio. It doesn't matter. The volume isn't enough to be consistent, right? Now, of course, you could drop a deal, which you did, which makes sense. You did 3 deals last year, which makes sense, because if you do this consistently, even though it's low, it will get attraction at some point, but not nowhere near to be getting 4 deals, right? And for me in lease options, depending on how everyone's doing it, if you want to actually complete 4 deals in lease options, especially if you're doing assignments where you're not controlling the property, you're having basically a non-exclusive agreement signed, right, until you find the tenant, which means for anyone listening that the seller can still sell the property, rent the property themselves until you actually bring them and enforce the contracts, right? So for that alone, you should be trying to get 6 contracts to close 4, right? 6 or 7 to close 4 contracts. So based on that method of contract, because you're not controlling the property like you would in a wholesale deal, for instance. Make sense?
Yes.
Anything that's not clear so far?
No, it's very clear. What's kind of interesting to me is I noticed as I was answering your questions, I felt, oh my gosh, I know what the answer should be. It just really hit me as you asked them.
And that's great. That's a great point, because I was just about to come on to that, because as I just said, this is people listening saying this is common sense, but sometimes when you're in it and it's all around you and happening, you can't think and you can't see it. You have to have a kind of come out of and look at high level on top. And that's kind of what I can do, because I'm not emotionally attached in with your day to day. So I just look at the numbers and the structure to say, this isn't going to work, and here's why. When I relay that back to you, that's when you're going to be going, you could have answered everything, agreed, right? But you see how you just said it hit me, because now it's triggered to say, okay, now I see it, I get it, it's more clear, and now I can make a change. Make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So good. So that's the first thing, okay? Very simple on what you need to do. We've not even talked about a market. We've not talked about anything. We're just talking about the input into the business. What you put in is what you get out. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be the one doing it, right? Obviously, I do a lot with systems. I partner a lot of things. I'm very big on that, because I understand that if I'm not doing it, someone else needs to be doing it, and that comes at a price, okay? So you need to really think about it, and I'm not asking this decision right now, because you've got to really dig deep and think what you're trying to do, but always have in your back of your mind that if you're not going to do it, someone else has got to be, because you will be sitting having the same conversation in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, right? Yeah. If we don't make the change. So we understand the problem. Now we understand that there's 2 or 3 ways that you can go. One is you dedicate more time to get the numbers up, right? And then you become coachable. And what I mean by that is that we haven't even got to, well, why is that one offer? There's no point us talking to them. We're having 2 conversations a week, you're making 1 offer, and then 2 conversations are getting shut down immediately, right? Because the volume's not there to be coachable. So straight away, I'm thinking, well, you got to get your volume up to then say, well, could you be asking better questions? Could you be positioning better? Is it the offers that you're making? Well, we need to be doing more volume to identify them problems, right?
Okay.
It would have been a different conversation if your numbers would have been up, because then we go, well, what are you saying to them? Why are they being shut down? But your volume's not there to say, well, maybe it's a numbers game. Why that is. Makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, so good. So we need to do that. Just real quick on the just for everyone listening and for you, Ronnie, as well. We know that what you need to understand as well, when someone shuts something down, they are probably reacting. The seller's reacting because they don't understand what you're doing. So the answer is no, right? If you don't understand something, if I come and pitch and try and sell you something and you don't understand it, you're just going to say no. I'm not interested. It's not that you're not interested, it's the fact that you don't know what I'm talking about. So it's just no, I don't get it. No. Makes sense? So you have to watch for that and the positioning of talking to the sellers when you're leading in with that. And remember, not every deal, almost every deal is not going to be one conversation hit done on a lease option, because you're giving something. I know you were texting probably Zillow leads, right? I would guess.
Correct. Yeah.
So you're texting Zillow leads that are trying to rent or trying to sell their home. They've not thought about doing anything different. And if it's just landed on Zillow and it's pretty new, then of course it's going to be a no. But you're positioning yourself later for the follow-up. And that's why it ties in. And that's the other big thing that I want to touch on here is the follow-up. Because these conversations, yes, it's about making offers, but also prepping them, especially on the lease option, for the follow-up. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
So for instance, if I get on and say, hey, Ronnie, you said you might be interested in renting. Let's say it was for sale by owner. You might be, yes, we start to engage. Well, look, what's going on? Why do you want to sell? Find out, build rapport, find out about the situation. Well, look, I might be interested in doing, renting. No, I just want to sell it, right? I just want to sell it. Okay, no problem. Ronnie, just before we go, let me ask you one question. What are you going to do if this doesn't sell? And I'm hoping you say, well, I'm probably going to have to rent it, right? That's what I'm looking for. Okay, no, that makes sense, right? What if then, how long have you got? How long are you going to give this to sell? How many months or weeks are you going to give it? Well, I got to move it. If it hasn't rented by the end of the month, sold by the end of the month, or at least under contract, then I'm going to have to rent it. Okay, so what if we do this then, Ronnie? I'm interested in renting it, okay, with the option to buy. And I know that's not going to work for you right now. But let's say if we talk again in a few weeks and you're in the same position, would you be interested or might consider it more then? Yeah. And then you say, yeah, I probably would. And then I'd start to close off, right? And then I'd be like, okay, great. Well, look, hopefully it seems like a great house. I'm sure it's going to, sell. So stay positive with that. But I'm going to give you a call in a few weeks. And I'd be happy to, work with you on it. If it doesn't sell, just as a backup. And how does that sound? I'll get yeah, no, that sounds great. Get that commitment. Now I've got someone as a very strong follow-up based on this thing not selling. So if it doesn't sell, now I'm in position to get that lease option.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It sounds very good.
Yeah, I know it sounds, when I say it sounds easier said than done. So I don't want anyone to think, well, yeah, that sounds easier based on that situation, but that's what you're dealing with. If you just position, because everyone else just said, no, I don't want to do it. Oh, okay, thanks, bye. You've left with nothing. You've just wasted your time, because we already knew it was a no because they're trying to sell it or they're trying to rent it. So we already know it's a no going in, which is okay. But it's what if it doesn't rent? What if it doesn't sell? How long have you're going to give it? These questions are the ones that are going to prep you for the follow-up to get the contracts down the line. If you do enough of it, you will then consistently close from follow-up by positioning on the first phone call down the line.
Very good.
Make sense?
It makes sense. Yes.
Okay, so just want to throw that in there. Right. Now then, we know the volume's got to be up regarding the market. So let's talk about your market real quick. So you have a brokerage, right? And where are you located?
I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland.
Okay, so you're in Maryland. All right. Medium home prices.
I would say around 400,000.
Okay. Right. So 400,000 obviously is a higher price point. Okay. Now, anyone watching, I'm not saying that you should be diving and leaving your market because that's where you live. It's definitely, I believe, I haven't done a deal in Maryland, so I just want to throw that out there. I have not done a deal, but I would say that it was probably easier in that higher end market of an average price of that to probably help with positioning lease options than it is the wholesale. The wholesale will be big spreads, but you're going to have to be in it a lot of follow up again, a lot of off market stuff, right? And shadowing leads and probably adding square footage to push ARVs up on the cash side. So I think, you know, the lease option definitely will work there. Now, it wouldn't be my first pick if I was going, let's say I'm in Savannah, I'm not going to go virtual into Maryland. I'm not, right? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go there. Okay. So there's a few things that you could do regarding this market. Obviously you have your brokerage there. So from a licensing standpoint, it obviously helps you, right?
Right.
You have probably more connections there. So I would probably say, in my opinion, that I know you were thinking just before we started here, you mentioned about potentially going virtual, right?
Yes.
So virtual is definitely an option for sure. For me, though, for effort levels and cost and everything else, I would probably say before you go virtual, you need to work on getting your numbers up. Okay.
Okay.
Because it's not going to work going virtual based on them numbers. We already know that,
Yeah.
right? So you're leaving a fault model to go in and with a fault model, right? You need to get your numbers up for the strong model to then take that in and apply it into another market. And it will stand you in better stead in the long run. Makes sense? Now,
Yes.
if you said, I'm willing to change and go, I'm going to get my numbers up and I'm going to go virtual, and you make that commitment, then potentially you could do that. Okay.
Okay.
As an option, but I'm still concerned that we go virtual and keep them numbers there. So, you know, internally to whether you want to make that move. Okay. Now, in terms of the Maryland market, what do you need to do? Obviously, you're doing Zillow. Okay. You need to be networking. 100% networking. Okay. I called REI Network for a reason. Networking is everything in this business. All right. You need to be contacting realtors and wholesalers.
Okay.
Right. You need to have strong connections with realtors and wholesalers. That means then what you can do is when they get to know you, you build a rapport with them, you get to know them, you can start working the deals that they're not doing anything with. So the ones where they can't list because the person owes too much money, right, for the assignment, right? That's a lead for you, and you can pay them again, depending on who it is and how you want to do it. It could be a kind of referral, or it could be a marketing fee, or whatever, right?
Okay.
Depending on the legal way and your licensing. But you're going to be talking to the realtors, right? Wholesalers doing a lot of marketing. The ones that are just doing cash, 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 cash. Well, what's going on with the ones that don't fit, where there's motivation? They owe too much. They can't make a cash offer, or the person wants too much money. You need to be networking them, saying, hey, bring me them leads, because it's free marketing for you. They're already got the spend. You work the lead, and you can partner, pay them on the lead, whatever it is that you want to do. But again, free marketing in a competitive market. But they're only going to give you that through building trust with them. It's not going to be one phone call and they're just going to start handing leads over. They're going to be going, actually, you know what? We're throwing these leads away. You start working them, they get paid on it. It makes sense. And they might look at it to go, well, it goes back to my marketing budget. It's better than nothing, like, because they're not going to do anything with it anyway. Makes sense.
Yes.
So you can bring in good leads without any marketing costs just from networking.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that's one thing that I would do for that Maryland market. Okay. Now, when you want to go virtual, the things that I would look for is, like I tell everyone that's virtual, is that who do you know? What do you know? Where do you know? Did you grow up somewhere? Do you have family? Do you have friends? Like, start with them places and then start looking at the price points, right? Now, the fast probably way for a lease option, people will argue probably like 125 to 250 would be a sweet spot, right?
Okay.
Maybe for a virtual market, in my opinion, right? But I would look at, it's more about when you go virtual, how good your team. So I'd probably network and get maybe a realtor on the ground. Maybe someone that's listening to this reaches out and said, hey, I'm a realtor here. Could we partner? Right. And start looking and then analyze the market. Because there's so many markets that you can go into. Probably everyone asks me, like, well, which market should I pick? There's endless markets. I wish I was in another 20 markets, but I can't. I don't have the vision to grow it like that. It's all about how good your team is and how you're set up and how you're applying yourself to the business. When I do these strategy sessions, like for one-to-one clients, it's nothing to do with anyone else but you. And I can set the business up in multiple ways to serve you the way you want it, right? Not me and not anyone else, because it's nothing to do with anyone else. It's your business. Makes sense? So that's why there is no one way answer to doing any of this, right? It's multiple ways to make sure that it gets done. Done is the thing. It has to get done by you or someone. And that's it. If you want to make it in real estate, that is it. It's as simple as that. Because if it isn't getting done, it's not making you any money or no one money. It's in that part of it.
Makes total sense. Yes.
So I'd say that would be mine, just to kind of wrap up in a kind of what you need to do, right? Is we want to get 4 deals a month closed. We need to be aiming for about 6 contracts. In order to do that, right, let's get 1 or 2 consistently going per month. So let's not, again, end goal is 6 a month. Let's try and get 1 or 2 contracts a month to start with, and then we'll ease in and build that. The only way we're going to do it is to put more time in the business, which will allow you to get more marketing out. Again, you can outsource all that. You're going to talk to more sellers, make more offers, and follow up. Okay. And follow up is going to be the key to this business. I would then get that going consistently. Try and give yourself probably 30 days of consistency to create a habit of doing it. And then if you choose, you can then go into a virtual market.
Okay.
Okay. And then, like I said, it's endless picks. Don't overthink it. Look at what you know, who you know, anything that gives you an advantage. And then the deal, while you're in Maryland and you've been working that market, networking, property managers, realtors, wholesalers, right? What are they doing with the leads that don't make sense? And that's where you come in.
Gotcha.
Right? As the lease option expert, you give them the, hey, I've done 3 deals like this. I've done this, third-party stories, tell them the case study that you've done. Like, oh yeah, that's amazing. Like, okay, let's work together. It isn't rocket science, right? But these things here is going to be free marketing of good leads. So anyway, I've done a lot of the talking, which is normally 101 that I don't do. I normally drag it out, but I kind of got a picture early on for you. So anything that in there that you don't agree with, or you're like, well, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that. I mean, what are your thoughts?
So I totally agree with everything. But there is one piece that I think I know you can answer, and you sort of may have answered it, but it would bring a lot of clarity to me. And that is, you said that if you were to go virtually, you wouldn't choose Maryland. And what is it about is it the price point, and why is it?
Yeah, good question. It's the price point, really. And it's just going to be more, again, I've not analyzed the market, but it's not a massive, it's just more high end, right? Which means I don't know this without looking, so nobody jump on me because I haven't looked at the numbers, but it wouldn't be something of like a rental market, right? I like to go virtual where I have multiple options personally, where I can go where there's buy and holds, fix and flips, lease options, and everything else going, right? That gives me more opportunity in a market. So what type of market is that? It's in a kind of a a lower price range market. Like California, you don't do buy and holds really in Cal, right?
Yeah.
California buyers go outside because the returns aren't in California. Makes sense?
Makes sense.
They're in the Midwest, the South, whatever. Okay. So that's why they invest there, because the return on investment is much better. And that's how I see this as well, just as a lease option. Is if I was going virtual, I wouldn't go to a high-end market. I would go to something where it kind of fits in the bubble of multiple things of them, right? And you'll hear about the 1% rule a lot of the time. It's more used for the wholesaling side, like 100,000 and rents for 1,000. And investors want better returns than that, but it's just as a quick gauge. I'm not saying it needs to be that. You could maybe, go up a little bit, from that. Like I said, the 125 to 250, if it was me going virtual, that's just what I would look for. But if you're in the market, lease options are great in a high-end market out of any other strategy, because the cash offers and everything else isn't working. So it does work in them markets. I just wouldn't choose to go there unless I live there. That's what I'm
Gotcha.
getting.
Okay, I've got the clarity now.
Yeah, because you live there, so I'm saying, well, yeah, it would work there. I just wouldn't send you there virtually. There just wouldn't be any point to doing it.
Appreciate that.
Makes sense?
Makes total sense. Yeah.
And anyone listening is the same. Like if you're in Cal, well, it won't work in Cal. It does work in Cal, but again, I wouldn't send you virtually in California to do lease options. It just wouldn't happen. So, but you live there. Again, you're networking. The things that you can do there's a lot more proactive things that you can be doing.
Okay, and I have one more question for you.
Absolutely.
And I'll preface it by saying I think this is terrific. I can't thank you enough for the clarity, not just for me, but I think for people watching this. I have a feeling there are a lot of people that have the same thoughts that I've had, and you've added so much clarity to it. So
Thank you.
let's see if I can remember the question. Yes, I remember the question. Yay. uh, do you feel that it might be better, even though I've kind of been hiding a little bit behind text, but to actually do the phone call as opposed to texting first?
100%. Yes, but it's more effort.
Okay.
So you can't beat a phone call ever, in my opinion. Now you're talking to someone that's all about the phone, right? Everything that I do and make is all about the phone. So I'm biased on this, but the answer is yes. Now, why do we teach then to send text messages? Because it's a way of getting to more people to get a pre-screen to then get on the phone. So you're spending more time with a quality lead by doing that sequence. But there's something to be said when you just call the person. Yes. And it actually works as well in a way of like, if people got fear of the phone, it actually helps with that by just calling. Because as soon as you're 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 in, it just gets easier as you go. So it's good as well. If people don't want to get on the phone, you need to kind of hit the fear head on. Just start picking it up, dialing it, and reaching out and having conversations directly. So the answer is yes, but then you have to look at your time spent, right? Where you can maybe get more text messages and get pre-screening and then spend the time with a more qualified lead. So I think there's pros and cons, with the answer, but yeah, at any point, and here's the other thing you should be doing or could be doing is if they don't respond to the text, call them. If you do start to call them and they don't answer, text them. So you can start going back and forth accordingly.
Okay.
So we do that.
Great. Great.
Awesome. Anything else, Ronnie?
Do you believe in direct mail a lot? Would you throw?
I do. I think I don't do a lot of it, hardly any of it. I think there's a time and a place for it. So there's direct mail and there's direct mail. Okay. So there's direct mail that I only would do on a wholesale side, right? On the cash side to niche lists. I'm not a bulk direct mail guy. Now, if you're going to do them one-offs to like rentals on Zillow, if you want to go that extra step of like looking up the owner and sending mail to them. Now, obviously, you have to watch for the licensing thing as well, because your licensed version's not. So doing the things and doing things in the right way. But even if we message someone and we get a seller on and they've got a contract with the agent, we're very respectful of the agent. We never go behind the agent's back. We'll just say, hey, like, this is what we want to do, and we'll give them a heads up. We'll have to talk to the agent about it. But then the seller already knows from me like how it's going to go. So then I have an easier job with the agent. Or if it's like, well, it's been on 5 months, they've got a month left of the contract, and I know it's too high and it's not moving, I would probably say, well, look, you've got with the agent. If it doesn't sell in the next month, call me after. Then I'll set a task to get back with the seller when the agent contract's done, and I would leave it there as well.
Okay.
So to answer your question is, yes, I think for lease options, the one-off letters are really good to the Zillow, like going direct to the owner. It's obviously more steps. So again, it goes into that time bracket, right? You're only doing 2 to 3 hours. You can't be spending 2 to 3 hours on that, because you're going to go backwards, right? So it's about, you need to outsource that, or you got to get them hours up and then split hours out accordingly.
Okay.
You see how it comes back to what you're putting in, to where, like, if you're saying to me, I've only got 2 to 3 hours, I got no money, I got 2 to 3 hours a week, it needs to be on the phone.
Okay.
And just calling and texting and getting people on and making off. Like, that's where it needs to be. So that's kind of the key thing in this.
Excellent.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Ronnie, I appreciate you. Thank you for letting me record this. I think everyone's going to get a lot of value that's listening. And guys, if you are, make sure you like and subscribe on the podcast or on YouTube, wherever you're watching. Ronnie, before we go, anything else? Are we good?
No, I think this was a fantastic session. I really, really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Ronnie. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you soon.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank
I'll
you.
keep you posted.
Thank you.